This might have been one of the largest weeks in AI we'll see all of 2025. OpenAI dropped two big new models that are really making the rounds, and now the community has had some time to see what's what regarding them. So we're going to be talking about that today, but that's not all. We're also going to be talking about new video generation enhancements, several new models in that domain, and not to mention Google did a little bit of a strike back on OpenAI, and Grok might also be seeing some updates. Let's check them out. For the O3 and O4-mini series of models from OpenAI, the community has had their time to taste and kind of play around with the models. Talon here notes that the most impressive thing they noticed about O3 is that it finally stopped answering everything with a list, and now it answers everything with a table. And I gotta say, I've also noticed that in my own testing. I've been having this thing write all kinds of different research papers, and while I have to say I've noticed that O3 still is pretty short in terms of the actual word count and the amount of depth in comparison to deep research, the quality of the generations, the quality of the actual text in research is very much high. The creative ideation and the intelligence really does shine through. And you'll notice, yep, we also see tables, data stream versus species versus metric versus prediction. These can be very potent and offer a lot of information at a quick glance all at once. Now, in this case, you're going to have to know some things about like biology, I think, in order to understand this at a quick glance. This was a little bit more of a simple prompt, getting a full-length report on a specific dog breed behavior. I gotta say, again, quite short. Lots shorter than you typically would see with deep research, but the tables are quite nice. The information is laid out well, and it's giving us the key points that we need at a glance. It's not going too overboard. And I think that honestly might be preferable for a lot of people at the end of the day. Not everyone has time to sit down and read a 10-minute long research paper. This is probably a quick 5-minute read, and it gives you nice, clear tables with all that information right at a glance. Even the original GPT-4 would sometimes give you tables, but not this frequently. They are clearly a very efficient way of conveying information and ideas through text, and I think Grok 3's release originally made everyone realize it, and now OpenAI also knows it's a great idea, so they have made sure that these new O-series models provide plenty of tables. Now, speaking of leveraging tools to make life easier, if you're a freelancer, a side hustler, or a consultant, managing the business side of things can get chaotic fast. But that's why I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, HoneyBook. HoneyBook is essentially the leading client CRM platform designed specifically for entrepreneurs and independent business owners. If you're juggling clients, projects, and trying to actually get paid for your awesome AI work, you know how messy it can really get. Thing is, they've actually been doing this for a decade, helping folks manage everything from leads and clients to project details and finances. It can all be tailored to how you work at the end of the day, and help give your clients a really personalized, polished experience. Honestly, the biggest thing for me, and probably for many of you watching too, is getting bogged down in admin tasks. With HoneyBook, so much of that manual stuff like sending proposals, contracts, invoices, scheduling meetings, it just gets all automated. That means you can actually spend more time focusing on the cool stuff like diving deep into AI projects, creating content like me, or working directly with your clients. And yeah, you already know it, HoneyBook has AI features as well, almost letting it become like a behind-the-scenes partner. Think drafting client emails faster, getting meeting notes summarized automatically, or creating project recaps, all powered by AI, freeing up even more of your brain power for the creative or technical work you actually enjoy. As I've grown my own little business around content creation and AI, at first I thought it would mostly be about the tech. And while that is true, suddenly there's all this extra business stuff to handle. HoneyBook is like getting a business partner to help me streamline all that admin stuff, giving me valuable time back to actually focus on what I like doing the most. So if you are an entrepreneur or small business owner like me, and you're tired of juggling spreadsheets, emails, definitely check out HoneyBook. It's completely free to try, no credit card required, which is great to see. All you gotta do is hit the special link I've put at the top of the video description. So give it a go, see how it streamlines your workflow. Huge thanks to HoneyBook for sponsoring this part of today's video. Now back to your regularly scheduled content. Alright, moving on, we've got plenty of new benchmarks tested by the community to check out. First up, by Spencer Schiff, O3 is state-of-the-art on Enigma eval. This tests for the ability to solve complex multimodal puzzles, meaning vision included, and even though the absolute score is still low, this is still the biggest leap we've seen so far in a specific model. And when he says that the absolute score is still low, it means it got 13% pass rate. That is super low. That's an F-. But even Claude 3.7 is down here at a 2.26% pass rate. So O3 medium here is dominating in this Enigma benchmark. Almost a double leap over the also new dominating model o4-mini. Even Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental is pretty far down on this list, and I think it's down to that multimodal puzzle. Gemini 2.5 Pro is a phenomenal model, but when it comes to multimodal, OpenAI just flattens everybody, no questions asked. And there was a huge bump with this latest release of O4 and O3 series of models where they already led in that space. Some quick information from Tibor on the usage limits inside of ChatGPT for the new OpenAI models. Plus, team or enterprise accounts have 50 messages per week with O3 and 150 messages per day with o4-mini. And again, this points towards O3 being pretty expensive for even OpenAI to run at the end of the day, but it definitely shows in certain benchmarks. You also get 50 messages per day with o4-mini High, and if you're wondering what the difference between o4-mini and o4-mini High is, o4-mini High just does more reasoning. It spends more time thinking. Now, if you pay for the insane $200 a month ChatGPT Pro subscription, you can get unlimited access to all models, but that's to be expected when you're spending that much on an AI plan. Now, if you're also looking for information on context length size, Tibor provides that as well. Free plan, your context window is limited to 8,000 tokens, plus limited to 32,000, which is kind of disappointing. I wish this was closer to 50, 80, 100,000 tokens. Plus is supposed to get, plus benefits. Pro is still limited to 128,000, and Team and Enterprise 32K and 128K respectively. Disappointing, honestly. I'd like to see higher context window lengths, because this is going to lead to people using the models in ChatGPT and thinking they're not great at long context stuff, when really the models are just getting handicapped by OpenAI because they're trying to save costs. Not enough GPUs to go around here, and it shows. I will say though, if you use these models in the API, you get the full up to 200 plus token context window, I think. Alright, a couple of examples with these new models. o4-mini High. Surprisingly, this is a difficult question for AI models. They can be so capable at complex and deep tasks, yet falter at even the simplest of math equations. But in this case, we can show that it finally is getting some of these questions right that AI models typically used to struggle with. 9.11 minus 9.8. Typically, I think it would even give you a positive answer instead of a negative one, but this one's given us a negative 0.69. o4-mini High seems to do a pretty good job with this. Next up, we've got Techniconch asking o4-mini High to create an autonomous snake game where the snakes actually compete with each other for the apples, and you can see it absolutely did that. The AI is going for those apples as soon as possible. You can see they're kind of fighting each other. A lot of people are talking about how these models aren't great at coding, but it turns out that's not really true. It's only when you're using the models in ChatGPT. Again, we have a smaller token context window. We have pre-prompting from OpenAI. If you use these models in the API for coding or Codex CLI, they're actually pretty darn good. But comparing to Gemini, Gemini still wins out at the end of the day. Next up, we've got O3 doing something kind of creepy. DD gave it an image of a menu of his favorite Chinese place in San Francisco with no title or XIF data, and it was able to search the web, match menu items, and locate that restaurant, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, kind of creepy. We just send it a photo of a menu and it can just figure out exactly what restaurant that is. Oh, and don't forget, it's going to give you the breakdown graph of the location and all of its information. Pretty crazy that this works though. I've seen other examples where people simply send like a selfie of them in some location and it's able to pinpoint the location exactly. Again, creepy. Adi Ganesh here provides us with some really nice detailed insights on how intelligent the O3 and O4 mini series of models really are under the hood. Adi laments that he loves the way O3 can answer complex queries about research papers. For example, and stay with me here, I don't know exactly what this is, but it's a PDF of a cell type signatures in cell-free DNA fragmentation profiles reveal disease biology from Nature Communications 2024 paper. Not my field of study. But he asked it to summarize a figure for him and find similar literature. In only 41 seconds of thinking, it really impressed him. At this point in time, these large language models, at least on these literary tasks, are way past a high schooler and getting into college graduate territory. And I bet you could push it farther, into doctorate territory. I think deep research definitely touches into that territory. With the right prompt, these things can be superhuman, and even when you lazy prompt them, you're getting graduate level insights. And yeah, you're getting these insights at speeds that are way faster than human experts. Scott Swingle here points out that o4-mini High just solved the latest Project Euler problem from 4 days ago in just 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Far faster than any human solver could hope to complete. Only 15 people total were able to solve it in under 30 minutes, so we're talking 10 times faster with AI and it's able to do it correctly, and that's compared to human experts. The fastest human experts are 10 times slower than this brand new o4-mini High model. And yeah, this is the Euler problem. That looks like some pretty complicated math. I was never great at math in school and definitely would not be able to solve this. The AI is smarter than me, but also as smart as human experts while being 10 times faster. Epoch AI has been releasing benchmarks as well on these brand new models. Again, this is them evaluating. This is not OpenAI's evaluations. This is third party. If we take a look at this benchmark, you'll see the highest model is actually o4-mini with high reasoning, getting a 15 to almost 20% on frontier math. Shockingly, o3-mini is right behind it, followed by o3, which is the new model. So o3 not doing too great here, barely better than the original o1, but o4-mini is absolutely dominating. It is important to note here, Gemini 2.5 Pro has not been evaluated on this benchmark yet, so it might come in first place. Don't exactly know just yet. Tibor ran this very interesting experiment, pointing out how difficult it still is for these highly intelligent AI models to solve simple problems like answering what time it is on an analog clock. You can see all he did was upload the photo of the analog clock. It's about 8:52, which it does get the correct answer, but it had to think for over 7 minutes to get that answer, which is crazy. Most of us can just look at this and tell you what the time is at a glance, but nope, it takes the AI 7 minutes to figure this out, which is crazy. You can see showing the chain of thought, it has to look at each individual little part of the clock, analyze everything to really figure out what's going on. It even does some math, all kinds of crazy stuff. 7 minutes of thinking just to give you the answer, but it is good that it gave us the correct answer. If it was the wrong answer, that would be really bad. Still though, I have to wonder, is this a result of overthinking, over-engineering, and over-calculating how much work needs to be done to solve a problem? Or is it really that difficult for these AI models to observe this image and really tell what time it is? You have to wonder what the bottleneck is causing such a long time to figure out this problem. And again, continuing off of that, we've got a problem that this model cannot solve and a lot of kids would probably be able to solve. Again, super interesting how it fails in these certain tasks. And Luke is right here. There is no way that o3 or o4-mini are AGI if they can't solve a simple problem like this. We've got a very simple image here, some stick figures, some lines leading up to their names. If you want to find out a name of a stick figure, all you got to do is follow the arrow back and there you are. But whoops, o3 has a lot of difficulty solving this. You can see it thinks that Bob is pink or magenta just because the names are close. Nope, you gotta follow the arrow. Bob is actually green. Basically, it screws all of these up. It doesn't do a good job. It doesn't get the answer correct. A lot of kids would get this correct. And it had to think for 13 minutes to figure this out and still get it wrong? Not good. Again, you have to wonder what's going on here. Certain tasks it seems to do so well with visually, but this? Complete failure. I'm wondering if it's a lack of training. The model probably has the words or the literacy to understand what this problem is and how a human would solve it, right? Trace your finger back. But when it's given this as a raw problem to solve, it uses tools to zoom in and try to figure out what's going on, and it seems to use location associativeness to determine which names match up with which stick figures, but also getting their colors entirely wrong. I don't know. Us as humans, this is super easy because we have been evolving for thousands of years to find and trace things back from an origin. How do you think we got so good at hunting all those tens, hundreds of thousands of years ago? But the AI, no training in this whatsoever, so it completely flops. Or at least this is a little hypothesis I have for this. Carl points out that he has tried this in so many different variations as well. Different prompts, give it more scaffolding for the task, nudge it to start with the easiest path first, and it still fails. Very interesting. And of course, Pliny not only has jailbroken this model like we looked at in our last video, but also is showing off the system prompt for ChatGPT with these new models. If you guys, for whatever reason, want to know exactly what the system prompt is, and it's actually quite long, it's going to be linked down below. The funniest thing, though, is probably this YAP score. The YAP score measures verbosity. Aim for responses less than or equal to YAP words. Overly verbose responses when YAP is low, or overly terse when YAP is high may be penalized. Today's YAP score is 8,192. Pretty funny. I think OpenAI definitely tries to weave some magic into their system prompts to give you a good user experience on the front end. All right, let's dive into a few more benchmarks. The first ever fully green row in Math Arena by o4-mini High. It completely solves AIM 2025 Mark II. The benchmark is fully saturated. That is a perfect score of 100% for the cost of only $3. O3 High gets a 95, actually slightly worse than O4-mini, costing way more, almost 10 times. But yeah, you can see that these new models are no joke regardless. Even Gemini 2.5 Pro doesn't do as good as O3 High. But yeah, the benchmarks that OpenAI have been showing off seem to be pretty accurate and pretty legit so far. The community has ran their own independent testing, and these models are stellar. Here is another really interesting benchmark. This is CipherBench V2. Obviously, the AI is decrypting ciphers in this. This is a really interesting benchmark because O1 Pro still tops it. It knocks it out of the park with a pass rate of 69% somehow. O4-mini High is second in place here, still topping the benchmarks in comparison to all the other models. What's also crazy is that O3 and O3-mini High get the same score and it's below DeepSeek R1, and Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way down here with a 22. Again, when we get to these really specific benchmarks like decrypting ciphers, we see some really interesting results showing that not all models are trained equally. While they can seem very similar, Gemini 2.5 Pro and O3, in reality, certain benchmarks are dominated by models that are outdated at this point, like O1 Pro. And we've got a nice little example from JHack on OpenAI's new Codex. Again, this is the coding agent that runs directly in your computer's terminal. It can manipulate certain files, and it's actually quite capable from what I've seen so far. It's open source and lightweight from OpenAI, which is not something you see too often, but yeah, it seems to be a pretty cool little example of the AI working and actually using your computer. Obviously, mostly for coding. That is going to be the main use case here. But wait, isn't Gemini 2.5 Pro a little bit better at coding? Well, yep, it is, but you can also use OpenAI's Codex to work with Gemini 2.5 Pro now. Sawyer Hood points out that in just a few hours, his friend forked OpenAI Codex, and now it works with Gemini 2.5 Pro as well. So, open source for the win. Use whatever model you want with Codex CLI. Like I said, we're not just talking about OpenAI today. Google actually had a little bit of a clapback the day after OpenAI dropped those models. They dropped 2.5 Flash Preview. And this is another amazing model. It's super darn cheap and highly intelligent, and also still phenomenal at coding. A lighter weight option to Gemini 2.5 Pro. This might make Firebase a little bit more useful, but here you can see it doing that classic hexagon with a bouncing ball inside test we've been seeing so often, but this one is customizable, giving you a bunch of sliders to change how it all works. So, good work, Gemini 2.5 Flash. A lot of positive things to say about it from its short time being out. This is a super difficult test for these models, but Gemini 2.5 Flash was actually able to nail it. It's Ramesh's Galton board test. He couldn't get 4.0-mini, 4.0-mini high, or O3 to produce this result, but Gemini 2.5 Flash was able to understand his intent and produce some tight, neat code that gets it done. It still took him 5 steps, though, to get a full working version, but he gave up on OpenAI's models after about an hour and a half of testing, meaning they just could not get it done. But he also was probably using it in ChatGPT. Again, I recommend you try any kind of coding stuff in the API instead of ChatGPT directly. Regardless, here is his massive prompt if you want to try this yourself. Everything's always linked down below. But yeah, here's the Galton board test. Some of you might have seen a similar test in real life before, but a bunch of marbles are essentially dropping from one point and they bounce throughout all of these little pegs to end up in certain areas, and you can see the spread over time and how it kind of evens out. But to actually code a working version of this, not an easy task for an AI, and 2.5 Flash nails it, where the default OpenAI ChatGPT with the brand new models is not able to handle this. Super cool test though. I would love to see this become a more consistent benchmark for AI large language models. We need more difficult coding tests. And Google is releasing even more models. We have Gemma 3 quantization-aware train models. This massively reduces the amount of VRAM you need to run these models, and of course the Gemma series is open source, meaning you can run them all locally. A model that originally took 54 gigabytes of VRAM to run, now it's using just 14. 24 gigabytes of VRAM down to just 6.6. 8 gigabytes down to 2.6, and that's starting to get into cell phone territory. Something that used to take 2 gigabytes of VRAM now takes just a quarter. So great work, Google, on these quantization-aware train models. They seem to be efficient, and I'd love to try them locally to see if they're missing anything from their larger counterparts. But Google is not the only one who's reaching back at OpenAI trying to take back that crown. It seems like Grok 3 might have got a silent update. Chubby notes that XAI must be taking huge losses to offer Grok 3 Mini at such a cheap price. 30 cents in per million tokens, 50 cents out per million tokens, and it's getting stellar benchmark results. Almost matching o4-mini high here, beating out Gemini 2.5 Flash Thinking, winning in GPQA against both those models, and sitting somewhere in the middle between 2.5 Flash Thinking and o4-mini high for live code bench v5. Matching o4-mini high in MMLU Pro, and an 11% on humanities last exam, which isn't bad at all. That is a tough benchmark. 2.5 Flash Thinking gets just a percent above, and o4-mini is just a couple percent above. And oh yeah, this Grok 3 Mini updated model is taking down DeepSeek R1 and 3.7 Sonnet Thinking all across the board too. So maybe Grok is planning a little bit of a larger update, or maybe they're just doing silent updates to stay ahead. Anyways, let's cap off today's video with some news relating to AI video generation. It has been a huge year for AI video already. Last year was also huge for AI video, so the train for this one is not stopping anytime soon. We've got a new version of LTX-V out from LTX Studio. This has 2 new variants of their lightweight 2 billion parameter open source video generation model, now getting full quality for final outputs, and it's distilled for rapid iteration and lightweight deployment. Of course, this is super awesome. Love to see open source video generation models, especially lightweight ones like this. A couple of quick examples from this model. It's not bad. The motion is pretty stable. It's coherent. And it's a tiny model. I mean, you're not going to be competing with VO2, you're not going to be competing with WAN, but what you are doing is generating all of these videos for an extremely low cost quickly. Seems mostly to be trained on cinematic stuff, so if that's what you do, this might be worth looking into. Kling 2 also got released. Blaine Brown points out that Kling V2 has great prompt adherence. You can see Jack throwing Rose right off the Titanic into the water, which is pretty crazy. Still a little bit of glitching, still a little bit of mushiness in this exact prompt, but I thought this was kind of funny. Would you guys like to see a deeper dive video on Kling V2? I know that Kling has a pretty devout fan base. People swear by the Kling series of models, but from what I hear, Kling V2 is extremely expensive to get into. While it is definitely a better model, it is not cheap at all. So Is it worth it? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Next up, WAN announces a new 14 billion parameter model for first and last frame video generation. So instead of just being straight text to video like it was before, now you can input an initial frame and an end frame. Gives you a lot more steerability. You can use your AI image generations as inputs. And WAN is a fantastic video model for its size. And you can see WAN 2.1 is showing off a couple of examples. We've got the jungle going to this underwater Atlantis place, and then you'll see they take that last frame and have it as the new input frame, meaning this is like a long continuous video. Pans over to see the deer on the side of the road. It all looks pretty good. It looks pretty smooth. I'm impressed by its ability to change the scenery to match the frame that it needs to actually input onto. And yeah, the motion's pretty decent as well. Again, this is pretty lightweight, being only 14 billion parameters. We assume this is smaller than something like Google's VO2, but it's open source, and now it has input and end frames. V2AI also teases a brand new video generation model, this one focusing on high clarity and the highest fidelity generation possible, apparently. This is known right now as V2 Q1. Some people in my Discord server seem to have access to this as well and have been playing around with it, but we don't know too much. It just seems to be a high quality, maybe 4K AI video generation model. So yeah, they've got a little demo video, V2 Q1. You can see it's all about details, these small macro shots, water droplets bouncing in slow motion, the ice is growing, the popcorn is popping, lots of really cool detail. The motion looks a little screwed up. I think that's a Twitter thing, so don't blame V2 for that. But yeah, you can see these are all high quality, high detail, sharp images and video. We really don't have a lot of information on this. Is this a brand new type of video generation? Or is this just upscaling? Like, what is V2 up to and what is V2 Q1? I hope that it's a expansion and a high quality brand new model and not just an upscaler, because that would be pretty awesome. V2 is known for animation and movement. Adding high quality to what they're already good at could be a game changer and really put them on top with video generation. V2 is pretty slept on. Moving on, Cocktail Peanut shows off FramePack. This is from the creator of the original ControlNet, and this is a new approach to generating videos in a progressive way. You can generate long videos with very low amounts of VRAM, 6 gigabytes to get started here, which is super crazy. That means a lot of lower end cards like 3060s can run this, and you're getting long form generation too. You can see this demonstration is a solid 14 seconds of Bugs Bunny kind of dancing around with a carrot. The motion isn't terrible, but there's definitely some like ghosty glitchiness that gives away the ghost that it's AI video. It's not as good as what we're used to, but it's a lot better than nothing, and it uses barely any VRAM while delivering longer video generations. At least the background is incredibly stable. I'd love to see what else is possible with this new framework. Some of these other examples show pretty impressive movement, at least with these animated characters. The one thing I wonder is the consistency over time with the characters. Are they going to morph? Are their features going to change? It looks pretty solid from these demos, but I have a feeling that these are probably more in the cherry-picked section of things, just kind of demonstrating the overall capabilities of what's possible with this new style of video generation. All right, like this guy dancing here, this is a little bit in slow motion. You can see the lighting is not too bad over here. And his legs, I think they're staying pretty coherent overall. Not bad. It's decently impressive for how little VRAM it's using. And finally, for our last piece of news, we've got Luma Labs' new camera angle concepts for their Ray 2 model. So this allows you to change your point of view, whether it's going to be overhead, aerial, over the shoulder, ground level shots. This comes after the pretty large success of Higgsfield AI and its different camera angles and advanced camera control video generation models. Looks pretty great though from Luma Labs. Honestly, it's nice to see all of these companies staying so competitive with each other, and open source is always looming behind, making sure things are moving along at a ultra fast rate for video generation technology. All right, well, that is what I have for you guys today. It's been a pretty crazy week in the world of AI, mostly focused on these new OpenAI releases, but it really seems like the benchmarks are holding up in that regard, and things are moving along at a steady pace. Everyone is at each other's necks trying to compete the hardest to get the best AI out possible, and that is fantastic for the consumer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.